Hey everyone, just a quick video to show how I've done my charcoal briquettes. I've done some charcoal before. I'll maybe do another video of that later, but for now I think briquettes. I'll just show how I do my charcoal briquettes. As you can see, it's just a couple of pieces of there's even some, let me just get this out of the way, even some old pieces of charcoal that didn't quite convert that I've just put back into this batch. And there's even a lot of pieces of bark that I've also put in. And now I haven't done it this way yet, but what I'm going to attempt is just to mash all this up and grind it to small dust before I start making my briquettes. I'm gonna do this charcoal in my retort, which I've built a while back, but it's actually just basically a drum, as you can see, that can seal on the top. I'm sure the other videos show the same thing, very similar. Then what I've done is I've drilled a couple of holes on this side, but just so they're all in the same line, and I use this cap so that I can know exactly where the line is. So when I put it on the fire, then I know that'll be pointing down, so that when the gases starts coming out, it'll actually go into the fire and help along the fire to actually burn quite nicely without adding much wood. This is the other part of the, shall we call it, the fire pit. It's basically a half 55-gallon drum. There's the other bit. Basically just cut it in half. Those two halves I just put on top of each other. Did some one of these refrigeration cans, just cut it out in the middle so that there's a chimney down there. It helps a bit with the draft. And here basically I've just put some straps, some metal strapping on, which I actually put the drum on so it sits just above the fire. There it is on the fire. That's the way it'll sit, and as you can see, there's some space at the bottom so that I can put some wood in there and get a fire going. As I mentioned, the cap is just to show me where the holes are at the bottom in the can, in the side of the drum, so that I know all the gases will flow right into the fire. And there we've got a nice fire going. So we just leave that for a while so that it can burn well, and as soon as it's all well taken, the whole thing, all the wood, then I'm gonna put the drum on top and then close it up with a top lid. And there we've got the fire going almost nice and well. I'm sure you guys know that doing charcoal, you need to actually burn it in an environment where there's no oxygen. Now in this barrel on top here, that's what's happening. It's all sealed off, just a couple of holes at the bottom so that all the gas and pressure can escape, so we don't build a homemade bomb. And this now just has to sit for a couple of hours. I'd say about 3 hours or less. As soon as I hear that all the noise from the gas blowing out the bottom is gone, then it should be about done. I'm now gonna put the lid on top of this so that all the heat can stay inside around this drum or this barrel as much as possible. And there we are. Can't see much at the moment. There's some smoke coming out the chimney still, but of course as soon as the fire heats up nice and warm, there will be almost no smoke coming from this. There's a little bit of smoke coming out there. We can see a little bit of the fire going, but not much. It's not dark enough in there. and that has to just burn for it's about 3 hours. Then we'll have a look. And there's been going for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, no smoke. It's been going for about 10 minutes. You can see some of the fire going on inside there. And this is now just going to sit here until it's done. This is after about half an hour. As you can see, basically no smoke. And I'll just bring the microphone close. You can hear the noise of the gas coming out and burning. I'm not sure, but I think the camera should be able to pick it up. Right, about 3 hours later, and there you can see the gas just coming out like a little bit. It's not roaring anymore, meaning it's just about done. I think now it can just cool down. When it's cool, like 7 hours, 5 hours later, we can open it and see what it looks like. Okay, so it's all done. Just take off this sealing ring. Now this is the next day, so this is all cooled down like many hours ago already. And as you can see there, it's all been converted. So all this needs to be grinded down to dust, and then from there we will continue the briquettes making video tutorial. I'll show you the way I do it. Alright, and that's this is what the mashed or ground up charcoal looks like when it's ready for briquetting. By the way, that's what it'll look like after we've made the briquettes. That's what they will come out and look like afterwards. Some of the bigger pieces I've chucked in here. All the bigger ones that I could use, because it's actually quite useless just grinding everything up. It's easier to use the charcoal than spending the time and effort making briquettes when you've got the charcoal already. So just the fine small bits that you cannot really use is what you use for the briquettes. Right, and of course charcoal being very dry and loose and brittle is not something you can really compress, or it doesn't bind well by itself with water. So what you need to do is take some flour, in other words starch, just boil and cook it up a bit, and then we add it to this and mix it all up, and that'll, when it's dry, it'll bind it all together nice. So that's next step. So next up, we take a rather large casserole or pot, and then what we do is we add flour, what you would use for either doing bread or cakes. And for that I use 2 cups. I'll say 1.5, not even 2. That should be enough for the whole lot. And rather just stir this up in cold water so it doesn't form lumps. And just stir that up a bit. And then afterwards you can bring this up to boil. Then you'll see the difference. Right. Now we just bring this up to a boil. Of course you have to stir it quite often so it doesn't burn. Okay. This is basically what it looks like. Just pour some of this in here. Just stir it up. So I have to do it and dry. It's dry, it's difficult to mold. And that is what it looks like when it's ready for molding. It's still a little bit hot, so we'll just wait until it cools down a bit. Texture is basically ready when you can mold it like this without it falling apart by itself. So next step is molding. Now I have 3 molds here. This little 50mm PVC pipe tubing that I've cut to more or less that length. So now I just fill all 3 of them. Like this. Put them in the press. Other way around. And there we have the first one. And there we have another one. And another one. So now we just fill the molds up again. Whatever size you want. It can be any size you want. Do the same process over again. And so we've done 6 in probably like a minute or so. If you really want to make it quicker, you can. And there we've done the whole lot. The first batch I made was a little bit more than half. Then I had to make another batch. I couldn't squeeze everything into that small bucket, that green one. But there you can see That's how many I did. Probably that was from one batch of that drum, and I don't know how many there are, probably about 100. But it took me literally, mixing everything included, 1 hour or less for everything.